Welcome back, or welcome to the Singletrack podcast. I am your host, Finn Melanson, and today we're going to be discussing the Western States 100 men's race. That's all I got.
We are back. As Brett just described, this is the men's field preview episode with two people that I am just stoked to riff on this with. Before we get into it with Brett Hornig and Mike McMonagle, a shout out to our presenting sponsor, Brooks, who is making this entire week of content possible, making this studio possible. We've got Scott Jurek out of frame to my left, Cole Watson over to my right. This is just
looks good.
This looks so
That's
good.
a good camera angle.
Scott,
nice work,
we got
Scott.
Scott Hickenlooper in the background, innovating on camera angles. Like, life is good. But anyways, shout out to Brooks, High Point Collection, upcoming Brooks Cascadia 18. I have been loving on the roadside their Ghost Max shoe. Their Caldera 7 is amazing, as sort of like a long haul trucker type shoe. The Catamount 3 is probably something that Cole might consider on race day here, and Blake Slatengren. So yeah, check all of that out in the show notes of this live stream. Also check out our supporting sponsors, NAC, right here. We've also got Delta G Ketones. Brett was brave enough to shotgun one of the tactical bottles earlier today and is still alive.
I didn't shotgun it. Shotgun would imply poking a hole in the bottom of it and then like drank it. I just drank it. And if you think you're tough, which camera? If you think you're tough, go buy some Delta G Ketones. Use code Singletrack20. See if you can down a bottle. I bet you can't.
Because I don't think you can.
And then once you do, go out on a long run because you're going to feel great.
Yeah. Your mental acuity is going to be through the roof. Anyways, really excited to have all these guys here. We just had Jim Walmsley in studio, and I want to ask both Brett and Mike their reactions to it. Brett, there were a lot of highlights from it. What was one of your primary takeaways?
So I always knew Jim was like a pretty analytical guy because a lot of his previous interviews, he talked about like, I got to hit the splits, I got to do this, and like, you know, talking a lot about numbers in his training. But now getting to like talk to him for a full hour about training and racing and life and all those things, one of my biggest takeaways is that I think Jim is in like the top 0.001% of athletes from a competitive standpoint. Like, not only does he work really hard and he's got some talent, the dude I think is just so competitive, whether that's wanting to beat other people in the race or just better himself. Like, because, you know, I mean, like you even said in the interview, like you made it, you got the sponsor, you don't have to like bank on winning a race to pay your bills. It's like, where does the motivation come from? I'm like, dude, it's like Kobe. Right. He's just like really, really competitive.
Right. The Walmsley mentality is the ultra running equivalent of the Mamba mentality. Mike, what was it for you?
He's terrifying. I mean, if I were ever anybody that was in a position to feel like I was competing with Jim, he just has like a kind of intimidating personality, I think. And on top of that, it's cool to, just as an observer and as a fan, to have seen him mature so much over the last
almost
6-8 years. Yeah, like
it's an amazing transformation.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's cool to see him still with just as competitive ambitions, but kind of looking at it through maybe a little bit different lens, and how he's kind of grown personally as an athlete and specifically as an ultra runner, and also as the sport has kind of grown around him. I think it's really cool to see. So
we are very fortunate because for the majority of this week, Mike is actually going to be behind the camera snapping photos of all of these moments. You might not know that in addition to being an amazing photographer and runner in the sport, Mike knows a lot. And I would contend that there are a few people in this entire sport that love the sport more than Mike does. So I think that this is going to be a celebration type episode. Speaking of intimidating, I am intimidated by how good your fashion is right now.
Yeah.
That's a nice shirt.
Can we get like a camera there? Okay,
yeah,
perfect. Look at that.
Cat drinking coffee, man. Like,
where did that come from?
It doesn't get much better than that. So,
like, where can I buy that shirt?
Instagram got me, dude.
Oh, really?
Ad, yeah. Instagram ad got me.
They'll get you.
It just was just pummeling me with ads for weeks. And eventually,
It took weeks for you to cook
it. Actually did. It took at least like 2 to 3 weeks of seeing these ads.
It wasn't like an
constantly.
instant one and done.
No, it should have been. But I don't know the brand.
Playing hard
Recommend
to
it
get.
though. Find it on Instagram. They got all kinds.
It
of
looks pretty thin and like
varieties.
breathable. Would you run in it?
I think I would. Yeah.
Would you race Western States in it?
I think because of what it is, I would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that anybody else do that. I don't think from a technical standpoint, but but yeah,
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's a cat drinking coffee. So
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, let's get into the run of show, beginning with top storylines. I asked Mike and Brett ahead of time to just pick one of the many storylines that they feel is most compelling to them. Starting with you, Brett, there's a lot to talk about heading into this race. What's one talking point storyline that sticks out to you?
I wrote down 2 because I feel like one is kind of one that we all have, and it's like the return of Jim Walmsley.
Yeah.
Where like he hasn't run this race since 2021, but at the same time, he seems like the returning favorite for some reason.
Yeah.
I know we'll touch upon that more. And then the other one that I wrote down is I feel like the 11-year-old Masters record of 15:45 by Mike Morton is in serious jeopardy this year.
Serious.
I wrote that down too. But so what do you think about the men's Masters race? Because the women's Masters race is, I think, one of the more compelling storylines on the women's race side of this.
Yeah.
Is Ida a master? Is she over 40?
Yeah, she's like
Yeah.
42.
It is. There's a number of fierce
We'll dive
competitors
into
in the
that.
women's race
But
who are in the Masters category. But yeah, what do you think about the men's Masters race?
well, I think the one to break it is Tyler Green.
Yeah, right.
Like, is there anyone else in the race?
I don't
other
think
than
there's
Tyler?
anyone else in
I
the
think
race
it's
that
just
threatens
Tyler.
the Masters record on the men's side.
Yeah.
But I thought it might be interesting. Like, is it a runaway for Tyler for the Masters race? And I think it probably is. But there were 2 names that I saw on the list that maybe stood out to me, which were Paul Jacobs and then Stefano. I might say this wrong. Ruzza.
Yes.
Italian fella.
Talk about Paul Jacobs, though, because he's an interesting... Massanutten, right? Like, he has a really strong time at Massanutten.
Yeah, Paul Jacobs is a really solid 100-mile runner, actually, from the East Coast. And I don't think he threatens Tyler at all. But if through the lens of looking at this as at the Masters men's race, if Tyler were to falter, it's something that Paul Jacobs, I'm sure, has in mind, because he's a really solid Masters... he's a really solid 100-mile runner in the Masters category.
I just had the scenario go through my mind where it's like a Courtney-Katie scenario where, like, Paul goes under the record, but just, like, Tyler runs, like, way under the record, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you probably know Tyler just moved to Salt Lake, but it seems like Tyler's pretty fit right now and has done a much better job in the last year or 2 of kind of betting on himself in the form of racing a little bit more aggressively and trusting that he's still going to have legs at the end, which he has. And that's paid off huge. And I feel like Tyler probably could care less about the Masters record because he probably just wants to win the whole thing. And you're going to have to run faster than 15:45 to win this race this year.
So do you think that Masters record is going down?
I think if Tyler doesn't get it, it'll stay. But I think Tyler's going to get it regardless of the weather.
I agree.
And I think he beats it by a significant margin.
I agree.
We talked about this with Dylan Bowman in our morning show, and he brought up the storyline that there are technically the winners from last year are not returning. Courtney is not returning. Tom Evans is not returning. And typically that will create this sense of liberation in the field that, like, you know, it's anybody's game. But like you said, we have Jim coming back. And it almost feels like that's not really the environment that, you know, challengers are coming into. I guess with someone like Tyler, and I bring that up because with someone like Tyler, he's done everything else at this race that you possibly could do. He's multi-time podium finisher, second at this race multiple times. I have to imagine, I haven't spoken with him about this, but like I have to imagine you come back this year at his stage in his career with the only objective being to win.
Yeah, I mean, he's been so successful at this race, but you know, he's podiumed 3 times.
3 times,
and
I think.
That's only happened 1 or 2 other times, at least on the men's side, to podium 3 times and it and none of those be a win, it's got to be a little bit annoying for him. And I imagine as you run this race, you become, especially like someone like Tyler who's run it like 4 times now, you got to be a little bit more okay each year, risking a little bit more at the expense of not running it again next year. And I feel like that's the next step, is like, how much closer to the sun can Tyler fly?
What do you think?
I don't think we've seen the best of Tyler.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's very much in his prime.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting to like think about when people are rising and peaking in their careers. And I don't want to call this like an inconvenience, but there's like this alternate universe where like Tyler Green is very much the best runner in our sport. Like if you think back to like if he was operating at his current level in like 2012, 2013, 14, we'd be talking about like a multi-time Western States winner. And he just happens to be rising in an era when you have Tom Evans in the sport, you have Jim Walmsley in the sport. Like it's just wild. But he is one of the all-time greats. I think he's already like established that.
Yeah. And he's been such a consistent racer too, which I think is definitely one of the boxes that you have to check in regards to being one of the all-time greats, is like, can you line up and show up pretty much every single time? And Tyler does a good job at that.
This bleeds, I think, perfectly into one of the top questions, and that is, will anyone seriously challenge Jim for the win? I'll give this to you, Mike. We just talked about Tyler being here, probably with objectives to just flat out win this race and kind of go for it. This is like a with all due respect question too. Like Jim is just, he's a superhuman, like all-time talent. This is his race. This is the race that like really, I think, showcases all of his skill set. Is the field strong enough this year where we're going to see people running with him from the gun, and it's not like a sure thing, his race to lose type scenario?
I think there's a couple parts to that. I think we'll see people running with him from the gun, but not because like I don't think Jim is racing the clock this year, right? I think he is racing the people on the starting line. So I don't foresee any reason for Jim to, unless he's really trying to make a statement. I don't know.
Yeah, like or he gets impatient.
I guess he could really just run it off the front and be like, "Let's go, guys! Who wants to come?" But I feel like that is maybe a little more risky and showboaty than Jim is maybe these days. At least maybe that's the sense I got from the conversation you had with him this afternoon. So I do think that there will be a number of people in the men's race running with and around Jim from the start.
How big is that pack, do you think?
I mean, I think it could be.
Like, are we talking?
I would not be surprised if at Robinson Flat there's kind of similar to last year. Maybe there's like 10 guys in a 10-minute spread or something like that. I could be totally off on that from last year, but it felt like it was relatively tight still. I don't think the race is blown open by Robinson Flat this year.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I could see there being like 4 or 5 guys within 60 seconds of Jim at Robinson Flat, because I think there are at least 4 or 5 guys in this field that are willing to risk their entire race to not give Jim an inch. Because if you look at Jim's last few victories, he's been by himself by Robinson Flat like every time. He hammers the canyons. So it's like Jim goes pretty hard from the top of the escarpment to Robinson Flat, usually has a gap on people. He puts it in a pretty quick cruise control from Robinson Flat to Last Chance, which is like your 11 miles of cruiser dirt road. He hammers the canyons like through Michigan Bluff, and then kind of even to Forest Hill. And then he gets to put it in cruise control from Forest Hill to the finish. And you get to play to the advantage of the heat, where it's like you put it in cruise control when it's hot. If someone's going to run up, 15 minutes on Jim, like they have to burn so many matches just to catch back up to him. So then, like, the way I see it, I'm like, if you want to beat Jim, you better be with him at Forest Hill and then somehow be able to race him once you cross the river.
Yeah, there's no closing gaps.
So, like, I just don't think there's such thing as closing gaps on Jim unless he beats himself. But we're talking in a scenario where he's not doing that. Oh, sorry. Mike touched my foot and I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, what happens?
I love feet. I do not know why.
A bit sneaky.
Name that movie. Name that movie.
Name that movie.
So yeah, I think. I mean, do you guys have any? Do you have a person who you think is going to try and risk their race to hang with?
So that's
Jim?
the other
Biscuit for the
part.
biscuit.
That's the other part of the Finn's question, right? It's
Yeah, like who?
Okay, are people
I
going to go
know.
with him, but are people going to finish with him or ahead of him? That's the other part. Is there somebody that can beat Jim? Is kind of how you queued this up.
It rhymes with Dakota Downs.
Does
Ooh,
it?
I have a name that doesn't rhyme with Dakota Downs.
Who would that be?
It rhymes with. I'm not gonna check. Like, every rhyme I'm thinking of just like says the name. Like, not a good rhyme.
Pan Bones?
Pan Bones. Pan Bones. That's who it is.
Is that who you're thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking Dan Jones.
Jan Downs.
Dan who?
Dan Jones.
He's a person who I think will not give Jim an inch.
What about Hayden?
I'd have to think Hayden then too, because I wrote this down, is the training block that Hayden Hawks and Dan Jones have put in this spring summer. Is that
the
one of
bromance?
one of the best like ultra running bromances in recent history?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know.
Could
It
be.
seems like content they've been putting out on Instagram. It's like we drink our coffee, we sit on the porch for a bit, talk about where we want to run, and we just go.
And if Hayden, if you happen to be watching or listening to this, you know I love you. Like, you know that there's no one. Well, there are very few people that I admire on the same level in terms of dedication to the sport, what you've accomplished in the past, etc. Like, you're the man. Like, it's been so fun to follow your journey. I'm curious. I feel like this race is going to answer questions about how good you are at the 100-mile distance, and I'm really excited to see that. I think it's going to answer the question of, like, are you in the category of, Jim? Like, are you going to really give Jim a run for his money and maybe even win this race? Are you more contending for a podium given the field? I'm super excited to see how that plays out. But Hayden, similar to Jim, is another guy who is just like competitive in all the best ways, works hard, leaves no stone unturned. And is this third or fourth attempt at Western for Hayden? A second, I think an eighth.
DNF
A
last
DNF,
year.
so this is his fourth. He has the veteran experience at this race to know what's possible. I think he has been training the last 8 weeks with someone like Dan Jones, who is a contender. I think a lot of questions are going to be answered on Saturday, and I'm very excited for him.
I agree with that. I also think. Well, do you think there's any other names that?
Well, Dakota Jones, like, is he uncompromised? Like, has he actually been, did he not bike across the Great Basin to get here a couple days before the race? And, he made it to Forest Hill with Tom last year.
Trying to break Tom. Like,
Might
didn't even
have-
make it with
and-
Tom. He
and he
led
did
Tom
it
to Forest Hill.
Probably at a shoe technology disadvantage, going up against that Speed Ultra.
Shots fired.
Shots fired, sorry. And, this year, I think he'll probably be a little bit more well-rested going into the race and probably learned a lot from last year. And I just think he's a competitor. I think he's another one of those guys where is just wants to get in it and mix it up with guys like Jim and is not intimidated. So,
Yep. A couple of people in the chat talking about like some of the Asian runners in the field, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Shen Zhasheng for sure. I mean, he won our hearts last year with his Strava, just amazingness, just crushing runs on the course and throwing down
Shen
like,
pretty hard.
Yeah, like
I'm a huge fan.
just throwing down monster volume and so fast. Like he was doing so much stuff at Jim Walmsley 2019 course record splits and training runs, and he's just teased us with a few runs this year. But there was a few that were incredible. Like he did one from the finish of the course. He just went out and back like 6 miles or something. But the middle 6 miles was like 5:30 pace in the middle of the day. I was like, okay.
Can Shen beat Walmsley?
I mean, he's had a really, really good year. I mean, he'd have to run better than he has, at this point in his career. Like he needs to be better than he was last year. But from a training standpoint and from a racing consistency standpoint, it seems like there's something there where, might be in, to get, what do you get, fourth 4th last year, 15-19. That's
Yeah.
very fast. In your debut Western States.
15-19 doesn't buy what it used to buy you.
Sure don't. But you learn so much from, your first Western States to your second Western States.
That's an interesting point that I was curious to ask you guys is like, what advantage or disadvantage is there? Like, I wonder, is there a trend that we see from people returning from a successful Western States for their second time? Like, first time went well, they're coming back. Do they want to do even better? Do they take more risks and want to go even harder and see if they can do more? Do they carry a chip on their shoulder that ends up being a little too heavy and they end up, falling off the back of the pack? Like, I wonder. There's probably something so psychological about that, right? About being on the starting line as somebody who is 1 for 1 at Western States.
Yeah.
We've talked about the opposite too, of like the naivety of not knowing what's ahead of you and like how much Western States sucks.
I think if we looked at it, like the experience is probably very valuable.
I think
the numbers would show that
I'd rather know
some amount of
than,
experience is probably extremely valuable, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I'd rather know than not know. Because then you can be prepared.
I do want to get into like some field analysis because and again, this is just my opinion. I think there's a pretty big gulf between the number of people that will seriously contend for the win and those that will contend for a podium. We can get into that in a second. But another big question that I want to put out to you guys, will the entire men's top 10 run under 15:35 this year? Yes or no? Mike?
I don't think so.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think
I
is
don't
the?
think so.
Where do you see M10 finishing time wise on Saturday?
I mean, I think we've had the top 10.
For reference, last year's M10 was 1609.
1609. Okay.
And only 2019 had a faster M10.
No, Cole was 1554.
Yeah, but Courtney's in there.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So M10.
M10 was
you know,
Janish. Yeah, 1609.
Yeah. So 2019 and last year are the top 2 M10s.
I don't think 10th is faster this year.
I don't think it is either. Even if
This isn't a cold year.
it might be similar temperature, right, to last year. I think is kind of what it's.
I think
at.
it's
maybe
hotter.
a little bit warmer, but like.
Yeah.
I
It
think
says
right now
like
it's trending.
high in Auburn right now for Saturday says 89, but next Tuesday it's 100. So there's like a heat wave coming, and if that pushes up, the high could get higher.
So what's the fastest M10? Is it sub 16?
1556.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we see that this year, and it's sort of for a reason that you alluded to maybe is that I think that there's a high number of people on the starting line in the men's race who reasonably think they have a chance at winning the race. And there's probably another few that maybe unreasonably think that they have a chance at winning the race. So let's say there's 15 people in this men's race standing on the starting line thinking there's a non-zero chance that I win today. I think we're going to see a lot of carnage.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a carnage year.
And there's no snow in the first 50K.
Yeah.
So it's dry. It's ripe for
Okay.
going out hard in the more
question.
rugged terrain.
I have a question regarding going out hard. If Jim decides to like chill at Robinson Flat or like to Robinson Flat and run it, reasonable, say we're like 445 or 440, does anyone go by him and just be like, no, I was planning on going to Robinson
Yeah,
at
we're not playing
420?
your games, Walmsley.
Yeah. Like, will anyone have the audacity to go past Walmsley in the first 50K?
Dude, let's talk about Rod at Canyons.
He
all
didn't
right?
give
Like,
any Fs.
Rod didn't give a shit who was on that starting line. And he took that shit hard, man. And he took it to everybody. And a lot of people maybe weren't expecting
A lot of
that.
people wrote him off for sure.
Yeah. Is he going to do something similar to Western States? I don't know. But, like, if Walmsley's trying to make it a kicker's race, like a 2016 1500 in Rio,
Oh.
you know what I mean? Like,
Dude, I would love to see that at States. Oh, my gosh. Give me a tactical.
I would love to see that, too.
Yeah. Like,
But will anybody let that happen? Like,
Yeah.
probably
Just like
not.
15
I think there's a
hours
lot
to
of
the
people
river.
that would not want to let that happen and would be like,
No.
all right, see you, Jim. Like, we're going.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
How many people are following through on that unwarranted confidence? And I don't want to say that's Rod, because Rod is an amazing runner. If you read his blog, you follow his Strava, and you just see what he does. He is somebody who has never left a stone unturned in his ultra running career. He's amazing. But who's gonna bring it? Who's gonna follow through? Okay, we will periodically bring in some stuff from the chat, especially when it's truly amazing. It is all amazing. But someone asked Mike, because you could have raced this year. You were very high on the wait list, and you're a 100-mile specialist. What time do you think
Your PhD
there?
Sorry, I'm a big believer in Mike. I'm a big. I
Finn loves specificity.
We're pumping this Mike stock, but where are you placing in this field this year? If like a goal, like what would you have been trying to run this year if you had done Western, like time wise?
Winning.
Where'd you be running for? It was who wrote that? Alex Proctor. Alex Proctor. Thank you so much for bringing this into the chat. This is great content. I want to hear from Mike.
Dude, I think people need to have some belief in themselves. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, somebody's name who we don't mention in this, however long we end up talking, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody that we haven't even put any thought about ends up at least, like, top 15, top 10. But, yeah, I don't know. To answer your question, yeah, if I'm running Western States this year, I believe that on my best day and on several other people's worst days, like several other people's worst days, I think I'm knocking on 10th's door. Like that would be like the
Yeah,
you got like a
Yeah,
16, 15, 1605.
I should say M10's door.
M10's door, okay.
No, we don't care about time. We just care about
Yeah,
place.
Walmsley
Yeah.
taught me how to not care about time anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think on my best day, if I were on this starting line, which I am not, I relinquished my spot on the wait list this year. That I'm maybe shooting for that M10 on my very, very best day, but realistically, like top 25, I don't know, top 20, somewhere in the 16, 30 range maybe is kind of what I would have in mind for whenever I end up on the Western States starting line again.
I got a follow-up question for that. This is important. Regardless of time, because like it's about place, it's about trying to get M10. Does that have what kind of conditions, like race conditions, help you get M10?
Do you want a furnace out there? Do you want like a high country that's snowy? What do you want?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Spoken like a true competitor.
Any
It's gonna be
surface, any
hard no matter
distance.
what. So yeah.
Couple quick other shout outs. I love that Nick gave us a Hans Troyer reference in the comments. Amazing. And then someone else mentioned Harvey Lewis way back. Harvey, we're actually having him in studio, I think, on Thursday, also a Masters runner. I am very curious to see what he does in this course. He's a frequent racer. I think he was just in like Portugal or something doing like 100K. So he's always getting after it. I don't know what that means for this race, but very curious.
I want to, on the Masters, we didn't get to finish talking about the Masters men's race. I do think Charles McNulty is another name worth mentioning. McNulty,
I like
local Auburn
McNulty.
guy, he's running.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think behind Tyler, Paul Jacobs would be my favorite for the Masters race, but also with Harvey Lewis. Like, I don't know. I don't really know what to expect from Harvey on a Western States race. But he's definitely in the conversation there.
Charlie McNulty, is he over 50? Because that's a different record.
That'd be like the 8. There's like, I think it's like 18 something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
And Liam might be able to help us in this, but I think the 50 and over record is like 18 something on the men's side.
Dude, McNulty
I'm
could
not
totally get that.
Yeah.
Not like easily, but I've run with him, and he's a very good runner.
Also, for all my Wire fans
50.
out there, shout out McNulty.
Yep. Charlie McNulty is 50 now, so
that's another sub
yeah,
storyline.
that's a good one. 18-14 for McNulty. Yeah.
I mostly agree with Aid Station Fireball's list of random ballers, but
those are not random ballers.
I think Nick Curry is a known entity. Okay, dark
those
horses.
are bright horses.
He says dark horse. Yeah,
those
they're
are
bright
those
horses.
are not dark.
They are
They're
bright
bright
horses.
horses.
Their beacons shine so loud.
Is there a random baller in this field? I don't know. I don't know if there's an actual dark horse in this
you can't
field.
even call you can't. Well, Nick Curry got in off the lottery, and everyone else got in off golden tickets. Like, if you could be a random baller and get the golden ticket. But now if you got a golden ticket, you're a known entity now.
Yeah.
I think so. It's gonna have to be your Cat Bradley getting in off the lottery on one ticket and then just going and balling out.
If we knew about them, they wouldn't be known random ballers.
Yeah, they'd be on the.
That's the beauty of
They'd
this.
be on the sketty for later this week. So that's fun.
All right.
Run steep, get
There's
high.
still so
in the
many
chat.
people we haven't even mentioned, though.
I know.
I'm just looking at this list.
Well,
This
and
is a
that's
list.
and that's what I was going to say. So like, I'm going to put it because we're about to do field analysis, and I'm going to put a disclaimer that we are intentionally not just name dropping the entire elite, sub elite, random baller field because that would take hours to justify. What I've asked Mike and Brett and myself to do is to just name a few people in various categories, and we can kind of discuss how, why, if they belong there. Starting with you, Brett, who are 3 people, and we kind of just talked about this, but who are 3 people that you feel confident are in a position based on their training history, et cetera, to win this race?
To win this race, I think the list of people to win this race is smaller than a lot of fans of the sport want it to be. And I think
I want it to be bigger.
Yeah, but I think Jim just wrecks that. If Jim's not in this field, my list of guys to win this race doubles in size. But then when you add Jim, almost as like the wild card, I throw out like 10 guys at the bottom. I already talked about Dan Jones. I mean, he's the one thing that I wrote down, Dan ran his first trail ultra in 2022. Like, and it was like not really all in.
Okay.
And last year was like his first real all in year on trail, where his debut 100 mile was Western States, where he got 5th. And then he went to UTMB and got 12th.
Yeah.
Whereas like who doubles like that in your like debut 100 and then debut UTMB? So it's like, I just have a feeling he's not even close to his ceiling.
It kind of reminds me of like Tom Evans, where like his friends at a bar one night just bet that he couldn't do well at ultra, so then he ran like Marathon des Sables. I don't know if Dan has like another similar entry story, but that is an amazing stat that he's this new to the sport. Also, the intensity of his fans. Like Dylan has talked about this on Free Trail. We're starting to get it on Singletrack. The number of people that just randomly message our DMs and say they will just comment Dan Jones. They won't tell me. They won't provide any more context. They'll be like Dan Jones.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
okay.
There's a lot of Dan stands.
There's a lot of Dan. Yeah.
A lot of Dan stands out there.
Okay, so Dan.
That was one name. Let's like go around the table here. I don't want to name the top 3.
Who's someone for you that's in contention to win, not podium win?
How long into this? We're 34 minutes in, and we have not said John Albin's name.
That was the next one
Put
on my
some
list,
respect.
but
And there's other names that we haven't said
Yeah.
yet that will take even longer than 34 minutes. But yeah, maybe let's talk about John Albin, because there's a very interesting contingent. I think we have the top 4 men from CCC last year rematching.
oh yeah,
And
that's fun.
Amazing storyline. That's
Dude,
storyline.
Dude, CCC has become one of, if not the most, I think, meaningfully competitive ultramarathons in the world over the last few years. And I think to do well at CCC, you have to be strong, fast, and well-rounded. And we have the top 4 from that men's field in this Western States.
Yep.
And John Albin led that charge last year.
John, Shen, Dakota, Johnny Ray.
Yep.
That's our top 4. Yeah. Okay.
And if Drew had accepted his ticket, we would have had
We
the
would
top
have had
5,
Drew.
which would have been sick.
Turns out CCC was a good golden ticket race.
But this will be John Albin's first 100 mile, I believe. At least
That's what I wrote too, with a
ultramarathon.
question mark.
Yeah, I've heard maybe some OCR type stuff.
He's done some like 24-hour OCR things.
Yeah. But first true like 100-mile foot race, right? Like ultramarathon style foot race.
Yep.
And if you're leading that group at CCC last year, whether it's your first 100-mile foot race or not, like, yeah, you're in the conversation, and you're in the conversation as somebody who maybe has the chops to beat Jim Walmsley.
And while being a shorter race, winning Transvolcania is like, that's a good litmus test. Like, people who've had success at Transvolcania have had success on the Western States course. Yeah. You know, like big climbing, big descending, really hot weather, late. John looked a little rocked at the end of the race. I don't know if that's just due to the heat or everyone kind of looks bad at the end of Transvolcania.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think one of the biggest question marks for him is just like, you know, what he trains in Norway.
Romsdal.
That's scary.
How's the heat factor going to be? It seems like he's been here for a little bit. So we'll see. He's gone Strava Dark since June.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna steal Mike's style here. We are 37 and a half minutes in, and if the Canyons 100K hadn't happened, I would be very confidently putting Petter Engdahl's name in this category.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it kind of funny that Canyons happen and then people kind of
exactly
in the Western states
exactly
lens kind of stop talking about Petter?
exactly.
Yeah.
The greatest. I mean, literally has you put that much emphasis on CCC. I totally agree.
9:30 pace.
The greatest CCC performance,
Yeah.
and therefore one of the greatest ultra performances of all time.
Yeah.
Was
think
that
his
with
CCC was 9-minute 30-second mile average
Yeah.
pace?
And that was with the ankle roll heard around the world.
And I will say this too, like if you're a watcher of conversational pace, you know that Brett thinks that anybody that's wearing the Adidas Speed Ultra is at a competitive advantage from a technology standpoint in this race. So you have one of the most talented runners in recent memory wearing the most current best shoe technology.
That was also one of my points that I didn't say for Dan Jones, another Terex athlete. He gets to wear the Speed Ultra. Full review on the Conversational Pace YouTube channel. No shame, plug. But I think, yeah, if that shoe works for you, I think you get some free time out on the course.
So was Canyons representative of like this bigger picture that like Petter is a specialist on longer, steeper climbs and maybe not so much on more runnable, hotter?
I feel like he just had a rough patch
Or was it a fluke?
I think because he finished really strong.
Yeah.
Like he rallied back the last 8 to 10 miles. I don't know. Part of me just thinks he might have had a rough patch around the Cal Street section, then going up Driver's Flat. Hopefully he doesn't get those kind of like bad juju vibes this time around on Cal Street. But if he's like learned some things and fixed it, I mean the talent and like
it's
the
not
race
that he's not a
results are
fast
there.
runner, right?
No, he's very
he's
fast.
got. Doesn't he have like some sub 30 10K?
I think
or
so.
something like
Yeah,
that?
he's like
Yeah.
a very well-rounded
Yeah,
runner.
like he's got the whole package.
Mhm. It's just a
Just
matter
as
of
fast
like,
as the rest of those guys are faster.
yeah. It's just like, can you figure out Western states on your first try?
I gotta acknowledge one comment in the chat, and then I'll give you guys one more name. So Blimp Captain says, "Get you someone who looks at you like Finn is looking at whatever is off camera." And I need to provide some context. So I have a straight shot view through the window beyond this screen to Palisades Tahoe, and it is absolutely mesmerizing. I do look at people that way too.
Finn's literally
but
just looking at a mountain.
I'm just looking at this amazing ski resort mountain, and it is absolutely incredible.
Here, we'll let
We'll
everyone.
show you after. But Blimp Captain, I appreciate the comment, but
Oh, we
that's
gotta
what's
switch the scene.
yeah, switch. Scott, who's behind the scenes, is going to provide some context to what I am seeing.
Little
You would be
BTS
too.
footage.
Okay, so I have one more name to throw in the mix. I already queued him up earlier. And actually, I think this, Mike and Brett, I think this
There we
raises
go.
a really, this is what we're seeing. Like, I'm sorry. I apologize to absolutely no one. But anyways, I want to bring up Hayden Hawks again.
Cheers.
And I think that this is a really interesting debate about the reasons why you would come to Western States after you've had X amount of success. Is recycling another podium, is recycling another top 10 performance, is that compelling enough to someone like Hayden? I think he's here for the same reasons that Tyler Green is here. I mean, again, this is me putting words in his mouth, so this is not what Hayden has, I don't think he said publicly, but I put him in this list of people to win the race because what else is he here for? Like he's a colleague of Jim's. Like this is a generational moment where he shows whether he's on that level or he's not, and so I'm excited.
On paper, Hayden checks all the like it factor boxes that Jim does. Like they ran almost identical times in college. They have almost the same road speed. They're almost the same build. Hayden's a CCC champion and takes everything very professionally.
I'm gonna pose this as is Hayden the
Pretend
best?
the camera's not on. We'll say what you were about to say, but pretend the camera's not on.
Is Hayden the best American trail 100K runner of all time? 100K.
I think Jim's better.
Is Jim okay? Is Jim like
Jim hasn't run that many 100Ks, but I think Jim's better.
Hayden's got the CCC win.
Yeah.
He's got the Black Canyon 100K win in a very impressive time. Course record. There's a couple more. Lavaredo, I think.
Yeah, I guess.
Didn't he win Lavaredo?
As far as results go,
his results are amazing.
Probably, yes. But I think Jim could run faster or more dominantly than those. But that's, I guess, in for the sake of this argument, that might not count because Jim hasn't run those.
Yeah.
But I think he could, though.
Yeah. Okay. So good context. So yeah, I would include Hayden in there because I just think he's a gamer, and at this point, he been there, done that for a lot of other positions in this field. What else? Go for it.
And his Black Canyon run was freaking good.
Insane.
That was better than I thought it was going to be. And I had
names in the winning category that you want to throw in.
In the winning category.
In the winning category, but then we can talk podium and overall top 10. But winners.
Okay. How long are we? We're 43 minutes in now, and have we said Katie Scheid's name yet?
Yeah, seriously, Katie
Yes.
might win this whole thing.
Dudes.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers to that. Cheers to that. Yeah.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Hey, before
38
Canyons,
minutes, 43 minutes bathroom break for Mr. B.
Before Canyons, nobody was talking about, everybody was talking about the Peterman versus Petter and all this shit. Like, nobody was talking about the Peterman. Nobody was talking about the Peterman versus Scheid. And then what happened? What happened coming up the driver's flat? Love you, Adam, but Katie Scheid came running right by. So
watch out, Jim.
I don't know. Nobody's talking about. I want to cover our bases here. Nobody's talking about Walmsley versus Scheid yet, and maybe we should be. All right.
You heard it here first. Walmsley versus Scheid, the showdown. Someone make a graphic.
So there's that. Okay. Other athletes in the men's field though, contending for the win. There are a few on here that we haven't mentioned, but I want to go back to Tyler.
Please.
Yeah. Because we talked about him in the context of the Masters record, but we haven't really spoken about him yet in the context of contention for the win. And Tyler's coming back to Western States. Is he coming back because he wants to podium again? He wants to get another top 10? Or is he coming back because he wants to do even better than he's done? And I think I have to believe that he believes that he has a chance of winning this race. And I think he absolutely does have a chance of winning this race. So I definitely want to put his name in the mix for serious contention.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like right on the bubble for me, but I think he's on the winning side.
He knows Western States as good or better than anybody else in this men's field, Walmsley included. Like, even Walmsley, it's been several years since he's been on these trails for the most part. Like, Tyler knows these trails very well. Right. It's all very fresh. And like I said earlier, I believe that he's in his prime. He's not slowing down. I think he's only getting better. So, I think if he has his day, he's kind of one to beat.
Yeah. Is it rude to list a few people that will probably try and win, even though they might not be in the heavy favorite category? Like maybe a more polite way to phrase this. Can we name some people who we think might be willing to roll the dice in the first half of the race?
Well, let's just call them dice rollers.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's just call them dice. That's a great category. Dice rollers.
Who do we got? Some dice rollers.
We definitely have some dice rollers.
They could,
no doubt.
They could win the race, but they got to be throwing 7s and 11s for all 100 miles.
What was the blackjack Austin Powers one? I'll stay.
It's you have 19. Dangerous is my middle name.
Dangerous.
Dude, I know you want to talk about Cole. We haven't mentioned Cole yet, hardly at all. Is Cole a contender? Is he a dice roller? Where do you put him?
I think it's he'll roll the dice.
He has the physical talent.
He does have
the physical talent. He has the anatomy of
Well, he's
a
got
Jim.
the track times. Like I put him in the Hayden, the Jim category where they ran at a D1 level in college. Cole was like a man child in high school. The dude ran like 151 for 800 when he was 16 years old. But
Dude, how about the 16-year-old in the trials in the 400 right now, by the way?
Dude, the men's 1500
Just quick
finals in
aside.
40 minutes.
Oh, shit.
We're just gonna have to.
We
pause the
might
live
have to
stream
do a
for
station
3
identification break to go secretly watch the 1500
Dude, I'll
men's
just
final.
pull it up on my computer.
Yeah, we'll
we can
just-
just
yeah.
be watching it here, and we'll just start drifting off. But yeah, Cole could roll the dice, but I think it'll come down to how the first 10 miles. Like, what are the vibes of the first 10 miles?
What do you mean by that?
Like, if people are full hard charging, where it's like, this
Not
is
Cole's
stupid,
tempo.
he's like, no. But if it's if people are in sight and it's a little bit faster than maybe he was willing to go, that then could seem worth it to keep those people in contention. He did that, like, he full rolled the dice at the Canyons 50K in April.
I love that.
I did not instruct him to do that. I just said, like, how do you want to race this? Because I figured we could go one of two ways. I'm like, you could just try and win it, but like you might fade and blow up, or you could try and run a really strong second half just to like practice finishing strong. And he's like, no, I'm going to glue myself to Eli for as many miles as possible and just see what happens.
Maybe that was a prelude for this Saturday.
I know. I'm really curious if that is like I could do it for that. Maybe I'll just do it for this race. Because he knows, and like we talked about too, like unless Jim really does something drastically different, like you kind of know the way that he could potentially dictate this race. And Cole knows that too. So then it's like, if he wants to win this race / even be on the podium, I think this year you have to run it that way.
I think that's really interesting with Jim in this field.
Like he's such an
Is-
X factor.
I kind of assume that if Jim's in his form, he's maybe the only one standing on the starting line who probably believes like I'm going to win this race,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? Where there's a number of people on the starting line next to him who think I can win this race or I
Yeah.
might win this race, but Jim is maybe the only one
It's like, I'm going to win this race.
who believes I'm going to win this race.
Yeah.
Which is, I just think that makes for such a fascinating dynamic, and like you said, like the first 10 miles, and we'll see how it plays out. But
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, things Cole Watson has going for him, hometown hero. He's run more miles on this course than anyone here this year.
mm-hmm.
Some of the best nicknames of anyone in the field.
don't underscore that. Like
Yeah,
that's-
like
List at least one.
Stone Cold Steve Watson. Swole Watson.
rolls off the tongue.
Pushing Watts, son.
Pushing Watson.
Yeah.
Turn down for Watson.
I feel like we're getting into the area of people that are contending for a podium, and I'll list off 3 that I feel strongly about. We're 50 minutes into this podcast, and we haven't put respect to Jeff Colt's name. Jeff was M5 last year.
Yeah,
and Jeff was like one move away from ultimately finishing on the podium. I think
Jeff was on M8 last year.
was he M8?
M8.
M8. Okay, sorry.
He was
Sorry.
as high as 4th.
He was as high as
last
4th.
year.
I am so sorry, Jeff. As high as 4th, and actually he had Anthony in sight shortly after the river last year, and I just think he made slight strategic mistakes. But Jeff is someone who is 1 year wiser, has improved progressively year over year. Like M11 fought his way back in, M8 last year, has the physical talent, I believe, is a gamer, can do it. Another guy for me is Jupiter Carrera Casas, probably relatively new to an American audience, but if you were on the ground, like the 3 of us who were at Black Canyon, it's really hard not to think that this guy could do something very special
Rock
at
solid.
Western. Rock solid.
all day.
Has one of the best game faces out there. Like I think I saw him 5 times at Black Canyon at various stages of the race, and he had like that Kipchoge face of just like stoic resilience, confidence. Whereas people that finished ahead of him and shortly after him, they were rocked. which was amazing. And then the last person I want to mention is Ryan Montgomery, who is just another, similar to Jeff, like tough as nails, resilient guy, where even if he is like aiming for a higher position and gets kind of like knocked, he's down to fight for, M7, M8, etc. And I think he's been very vocal on social media about his aspirations for this year, and he's an extremely hard worker, and now working with Jason Koop. So, he's one of those guys where it's like the time is now. Like I'm ready to like make big changes and do big things and do all the small things too to be successful. So I think I see him as a podium contender as well.
Dude, Ryan last year, 1538. And he looked like ass coming into Michigan.
Dude,
Bluff.
We were all there.
Like,
It was insane.
That was
hurting, man.
But he displayed such maturity and
that's what I'm
like
saying.
poise, because I was like, this dude's gonna drop, and like everyone around his crew knew he looked horrible. They were panicking. They were like, let's change your shoes, let's do ice. And he was just like, everyone stop, give me 1 minute to just like reset, like chill.
I need a minute.
And he literally just like
Leave me
closed
alone.
his eyes and sat back in a chair for like 60 full seconds, which would feel like an eternity. And then he got back up and he was like, okay,
Let's go run
time
15:38.
Time in, like let's go.
That's what I'm saying.
That was incredible.
If he can run 15:38 with that kind of mid-race experience, like shit. If that doesn't happen, if he prevents that, or
15
even
hours.
if it does, like it's assuming he's in better form. He's training under Coop now. His training looks a little bit different. Like
he went straight back to work after Western States last year. Didn't need to run Javelina, but just did for the sake of competition and broke 13 hours. Significant PR over previous Javelinas. It's like, like Ryan Montgomery's stock has risen since last Western States.
the other two names you mentioned real quick, Jeff and Jupiter.
Yeah.
They've both been just quiet.
Yeah, I wrote that down.
Mysteriously quiet, like too quiet.
Jeff was going to run
quiet.
Canyon
Too
50K, but decided not to, and looks like since January, Jeff has just been like kind of steady grinding
Yep.
this whole time.
Like I said at the top of this sort of field analysis segment, we could spend hours name dropping the entire field of contenders. I think it'd be fun to each name one or two people that we see placing somewhere inside the top 10 that are interesting to us for various reasons. I'll go first, and I might steal some people's thunder.
Oh, wait. Before you say it, I'm going to say, how have we not said
Caleb Olson.
There it is. Yes. Okay. I knew we were all on the same page for that.
Oh, I'm so glad I didn't get that wrong.
Yeah. Caleb Olson. Yeah. Let's talk about
Olson. You go, Mike.
No, what are you like?
Well, okay.
Ride your high.
Okay, I'll start with Caleb. So, I got to meet Caleb in 2019 at the Corner Canyon 50K, and there was just something that I saw in him. Even though he was not like truly elite then, I knew that this guy's ceiling was so freaking high, and he was going to get there relatively quickly. And it's just been fun over the last 3 to 4 years to see this like very gradual but steady rise in his talent and production. So finishes, I think, 17th at CCC in 2021. The next year is the top American. Last year, podium at Ultra Trail Cape Town, wins Grindstone to punch a ticket, top 2 just behind Drew Holman at Lake Sonoma to make a world team. He would have done well at Worlds.
89th?
80,
roughly?
89th at Worlds. 89, yeah. Was it 789? What was like the joke?
Oh, yeah.
The American men at Innsbruck in the 85K went 5th, 6th, 7th, and then he was like 89. So it's 5, 6, 79. Credit to Leah Yingling for that one.
Credit to Leah, who is somewhere. She might even be.
I'm sure she's hiding in a cave.
Yeah, she's actually
this.
right on the other side of the TV. You guys can't
Shout
see her.
out
She
Leah.
came
I
in.
asked her if she. Yeah.
Her work day's over, so she's here now.
That's the cave.
We'll have Leah in studio, I think, tomorrow or Wednesday to chat about her race. But anyways, Caleb is super talented. I maintain that he would have been right there with La Puma and Drew and team if he had just trained specifically for Innsbruck, but he was too busy adventuring on
Well,
these.
he was
like,
a little injured.
he was a
too.
little, but like
But
he was
I
just
don't
doing
know.
these like, again, this is too inside baseball because it's like Salt Lake stuff. But he just
likes
wasn't training
mountains.
specifically. He wasn't doing what he is doing now for Western. So he's hitting Western in my opinion at the right time. Like I think he cares deeply about
Mhm.
the competitive depth of this field and being in that like historical moment. He's trained specifically. I think he's taken the advice of Mike and Leah to heart about how to get ready. I think so. And
Leah. maybe
and
not
Leah. Okay. And I think he's ready. I think he's he's not a random baller because his resume is too stout, but yeah, he's a podium contender in my
I
opinion.
have two things I want to say about Caleb Olson.
Please.
The first is that I agree with you. Like, I think he's a really, really solid contender for deep into the top 10, top 5. I don't know if you've like paid attention to his training on Strava or anything the last few weeks, but like you alluded to it with like Innsbruck and some of these other races where he's kind of like, maybe he didn't have his day there because he was kind of like filling his soul more than he was filling his like training. And he wasn't training super specifically for some of those races. Western States, like he's had a solid base all winter long, like racing a bunch of 50Ks in Moab and stuff, really working on speed and all that stuff. But he's not the kind of person that like necessarily enjoys Western States type training.
No.
Mm-mm.
But I think in the last several weeks, he's been sprinkling in more of those just like soul filling runs that sure, maybe they're not like course specific to Western States training, but like they're keeping his mind and his heart fresh. And I think he's going to show up he's going to be on the starting line, not sick of it, not sick
That's a
of the
big
training
deal.
and not sick of that type of running where like, I don't know, like maybe that's something specific to him, or maybe that's something that gives him an advantage over other runners who have just been pummeling themselves on like
Mhm.
Western States specific training. And they're like, a lot of them are like kind of sick of it because it's not everybody's favorite type of running.
Yeah.
But so I think Caleb is showing up with a really fresh heart and a really fresh mind. And I also think that he just kind of cares a little bit less about Western States itself
Like the aura of it.
than he does
Mhm.
about just
Yeah.
like the competitive.
It's like Anthony.
He's like an Anthony.
A little bit like Anthony.
He is like
yeah.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Costales.
Because Anthony's like, I don't give a shit about Western States history, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. He's like, I want to race people.
Yeah.
And it seemed like Caleb last year made like a much more conscious decision to go a little bit more all in on racing. Like he's always
Yeah.
been pretty all in on running, but he's more all in on racing. And one thing that I'm actually just so curious about, Caleb's a really good mountain runner. He's really good at like technical stuff. And I'm curious, like Caleb's one of those people that could potentially go out like pretty high up in the field
He'll love
to,
the first
to
50K.
Robinson Flat without burning too many matches.
He'll
Like-
feel right at home.
Yeah,
at
and
the
then it'll
first 50K.
then it's more like then can he handle the heat and the mind games? the
Caleb
next
is going to be an
100K?
EV in the mountains. He's going to be ready at Robinson Flat just to like actually race.
An electric
Mhm.
vehicle.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's battery powered in the mountains.
How does that? I was like, where does
He
that?
could
What does
do
that
it on
mean?
a single
That's
charge.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm-
Mike and I
Okay,
were like, what's
but
an
real quick,
EV in the mountains?
We didn't get to my interesting, I think, storylines in the very beginning when we opened this up, and I have two
Please,
really
please.
fun
Oh.
little tidbit
Yes, yes.
storylines that
Okay.
I'm following at this year's Western States men's race. One is Caleb versus Caleb, and one is D Jones versus D Jones.
Oh, Dakota Jones. There's Dan Jones, and then Caleb versus Caleb.
Wait, so we have two fun like name matchups.
Yeah.
in the
I'm
men's
reminding
race.
you in this episode to hop into our women's episode to do the person who's going to probably do well at this race and
Oh,
their
thank
name.
you for the
relation-
reminder.
Yeah.
But D Jones versus D Jones, fun little storyline. Who's gonna win that one? I don't know.
Dakota
That'd be a
Dan.
fun prop bet. And then Caleb versus Caleb, man. Caleb Olson. Caleb Bowen.
Caleb Bowen. Did battle at Grindstone. They do battle again here.
Yeah, they did a good battle at Grindstone.
Okay.
So Caleb Bowen should definitely be in the conversation here.
Did Caleb?
And he's got like a
Did he
freaking
race
12
recently?
something hundred
He's
to his
fast.
name too.
Yeah, he's
Like the
fast.
guy's serious, man.
And I love that he's from West Virginia. I love representing sort of like the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic. Pretty cool out here at States.
I don't know Caleb Bowen as well, but I'm taking Caleb Olson in the
In
Caleb v.
contention for some of the
Caleb.
best hair at Western.
Caleb Bowen.
Great hair.
Mm.
Caleb Bowen, great hair. All right, we're going to tackle this later, but I'm going to state it now for the live stream. We are going to do what I'm calling listener mail. So if you drop a question in this live chat, we'll probably try to answer 2 or 3 of them a little bit later on in this episode. But I do want to go to a segment that I am calling good call, bad call. So I'll state something, and Mike and Brett will either say good call or bad call and explain. The first one I have, which is, I guess, out of some people's control because sometimes things just happen that way, but taking your golden ticket at the Canyons 100K. So this is for people like Rod Farvard and Petter Engdahl. Good call or bad call? Mike.
Is this like do I have to be a politician, or can I be a politician and
you can be whatever you want.
Stretch the
this
answer,
is a free
or do
country.
I literally just have to say good call or bad call?
This is a free country. Go ahead. Elaborate.
I mean, my gut says good call, so I'll start with that. My gut says good call, but really, I say like it just depends on who you are, man. Like, I don't know. There's some people who Western States and getting to that start line is like just such a dream and it's such a purpose, and it's the reason they even stepped onto the Canyon starting line. Mm-hmm. Maybe after stepping on the a number of other starting lines. And so, yeah, like there's not an option. I mean, you can't like defer it, right? It's either yes, you either take it or you don't that year, right? So,
yep.
And for context, the idea here is like, is it too late in the Western States journey? Are they like doomed in a sense that like it's really hard to recover?
So yeah, is it the best way to perform your best at Western States? Probably not, but it's definitely not the worst. Like, I mean, I know people talk about that a lot, but I don't think Canyons is like a terrible lead up race to Western States. It's just the fact that like, assuming if you're getting a golden ticket there, that's like a full gas, visit to the well.
I mean, like my gut has always said bad call, but then you look back at the Canyons history and you have like Beth Pascal, Adam Peterman, Emily Hawgood, Leah Yingling, Cole Watson. Like these are all people that have like won the race or been in the top 10.
Yeah.
A handful of weeks later, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But like maybe it does. Like Katie Scheid voluntarily raced Canyons 100K this year for
such a power move
for reasons, I guess. So
yeah, that's a great point. She didn't have to be there.
She didn't have to be there, but she did, and she spanked everybody. She didn't even go here. Can't we just all be friends? But yeah, so then it's like my gut's always like bad call, but then I keep getting proven wrong.
You keep proving.
I keep put that on a shirt. Just keep get proving. Keep get proving. Wrong. Every year.
I said my gut said good call. Brett's gut said bad call, but we both kind of neutralized.
But then it's like I think it's a good call.
I'm gonna also gut the bad call, but I'm pretty sure Liam has crunched the numbers here, and the data shows that it's just an okay call.
It's a neutral
call. It's just an okay call.
Wow.
Okay call.
Good call, bad call, trick question, neutral call. Next.
Yeah. Liam would say it's like right down the line. Some people who get them have good days, some get them and don't. I don't know. I guess, yeah.
For me, it'd be bad call. Like, I get sore. Like, I'm not good at just like the bounce back. Where like I don't get a good training stimulus from racing 100K.
Are you weak?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have enough like 140-mile weeks in my legs. I think if I'm to a point where I've been training for like 24, 48 months of 20-plus hour weeks, I can probably bang out 100K 6 weeks before 100-mile, and it's fine. But
too much week, not enough
legs or something.
Weeks.
I'm all fast twitch. All fast twitch.
One of the greatest stories of resilience was when you were doing that marathon block, and then your number was called to run Western States.
Yeah. And I blew up.
Sorry, I meant that for that to be an uplifting story.
Good call, bad call. I've always been told that it's a good call for like the training block that you do before your Western States training block is like a marathon.
Yeah, you ran 2:28.
Good call, bad call. I mean, for me, clearly bad call, but like, what do you think?
I mean, I would also think good call. like if I'm running my fastest marathon to date and then like
do fast and then go
4
long.
months later, I'm doing a really runnable 100 where I have to have running economy and foot speed. Like, yeah, I'm stoked if I've just PR'd in my marathon in February or whatever, December,
Right.
ran CIM. If I ran CIM and then got ready for Western, I'd be stoked.
Yeah, so you'd rather go fast and then move up to the 100-mile distance.
Yeah.
Mike, what about you? Would you like to drop down to like,
I think that
or go up?
So actually, my lifetime mile PR happened at a road mile race that had 2 U-turns in it. So this is like not ideal conditions for a lifetime mile PR. Like 4 days after a 100-miler.
This is insane. This is an insane story.
I think it was like just brute force. Like 100 miles. Well, that was 20 something hours of hurt. So I can hurt for 5 minutes.
Like, I still couldn't even run that many days after.
Yeah,
100.
I don't know. I don't know. So, but
What
to
was
answer
your time?
question, it was I think it was 4:57.
4:57,
Yeah.
4 days after 100. I just want people to know how
I mean,
fast it was.
and that was several years ago. I'm not saying I don't know that I could ever repeat that.
Mike's
but
going to do that on the Placer High track
But
after
man,
banditing Western States this weekend.
But so to answer your question, yeah, I don't know. I think there's something to be said for the just the mental strength you get from a 100-mile training block and a 100-mile race.
Mhm.
So then maybe I would choose to kind of go the opposite direction and put something fast after.
Like big mountains and then
Mhm.
whittle it down
Mhm.
to Western States. I would love to try Western States from that approach.
Mm.
Yeah.
Just because I've tried it from the other one and it didn't seem to work for me.
Yeah. I like the philosophy of like making the goal race feel easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe if that was like a Madeira or something in
Yeah.
the spring, then Western States.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
like a road marathon. That would be kind of fun.
Good call, bad call. By the way, all of these actually came from the audience. So keep that in mind. That's the context. I think this is this is loaded, but it's an interesting one. Running with your peer group for the entirety of Western States training camp. Good call or bad call? And I think I'm guessing that the context here is like, do you run too hard? And
as opposed to like you doing you.
You do you versus like, yeah. Do you run? Like, and even if you did kind of like run outside your like appropriate pacing zones, like do you get fitness from that? Like, good call, bad call. Like as a coach, this is going for a coach.
Yeah, so I listened to AJW and Jason Koop. They actually did a great Western States like breakdown pod a couple weeks ago, and AJW actually brought up a great point in that Western States is it's like a week later this year. Memorial Day is not. So there's actually one more full week of training between the Memorial Day training camp runs and Western States this year. So for this year specifically, yeah, go for it. Have fun. Have fun at the Memorial Day runs. Like, yeah, run all 3 days. Maybe they're a little too hard.
Hog wild.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, you're going to be okay. Other years, you might want to pay attention to a little bit more because you only get like 3 good weeks of training instead of 4 in between. So running with your peers, plus also like it's just so fun. Memorial Day training camp is so fun. Like, I say good call. Like, yeah.
Bad call. Just run off the front, dude. Scare the shit out of them.
So go even harder.
You know what I'm saying?
Go even hard.
You're actually not going hard enough.
Mike is so good at running that he interprets running with your peers as like going slow as hell. This is so boring. He's like, no.
No, I'm just kidding though. Actually, I think it's a great call. Unless I was actually going to what I was thinking was the exact opposite. It was good call unless the peer group is going faster than you want to go. Like, because I don't know, maybe the context of this question is like is sort of assuming that people are running kind of hard.
Yes.
At training camp. In which case I would say, like, if that's not what you want to do, bad call.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
That just got me thinking.
You do you.
I was going to say bad call, but I'm also going to say good call for psychological reasons. I think that you're not necessarily worrying about the speed of it in training camp, but it's more actually the psychology of just staying with your aspirational pack on race day, practicing that at camp, and then being more ready to do that on race day. And I feel like, for me at least, if I was in this position to be elite heading into Western, there would be something weird psychologically if I let them go ahead of me at training camp. I feel like I would have a harder time on race day sticking with them. I don't know why. I don't know
See,
why I'd have that reaction.
I think there's people who would say like, "Oh,
I'm
see
gonna-
you at States," but
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying?
I wish I was that way. I'm just thinking of my own disposition, and I think I'd be
Go
like,
ahead, have your fun at camp then.
I'll get you
I'll
later.
see you at
I'll get you-
friggin' Forest Hill.
No problem. And then it became personal.
I've got a good call, bad call, except it's like
Let's do one more.
well, there's like
one more
you
good
know
call,
like
bad call.
the
2 more.
you know the what is it? You gotta marry one. You gotta we'll just say kiss. We go Taylor Swift here. Marry, kiss, or kill. Okay.
Not kill.
We got
pinch.
marry, kiss,
Punch.
punch.
No violence.
High carb fueling. Cooling, like topical cooling, or super shoes.
Oh my gosh.
Marry, kiss, or kill. What are you taking?
All right, I'm marrying the topical cooling.
Okay.
It's gonna be a long, happy marriage.
I am kissing super shoes. And I'm killing high carb.
Kill high carb fueling.
I think I'm the same. I think I'm definitely marrying. Which one are you marrying?
I'm marrying the the heat
Yeah, cooling.
management. the
I'm
heat
marrying
mitigation.
cooling for sure. That's never
Yeah.
gonna.
I can't
not
believe
be a-
Debo didn't do any topical cooling at Western
Dude,
States.
it wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a thing.
Like you would dunk your head in a cooler, like, and that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm
Oh, do
also.
you have a different answer?
So when I first thought of this question, I was gonna marry.
Where were you when you first thought of this question?
On a run, of
Okay,
course.
that's fair.
I run. I do so much running by myself, and like I think things, and then I talk them into my phone as little voice memos, like a shower thought, except running. I was
a Salt Lake man. You won't ever run alone again.
Yeah, I know. You're right. Okay. I was gonna marry high
We can
carb
run together.
fueling,
You're gonna marry high carb.
but then after going to further,
Brett and high carb sitting in a tree. Am I
Yeah.
right?
KISS.
but then after going to further and seeing Leah's like core temp numbers
Mm.
after the cooling, then I'm like, it's like cooling makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
And I think where the sport is right now, it's cooling, I think high carb fueling, and then I'm actually killing super shoes.
Yeah.
After everything you've said about the
After
Speed
everything-
Ultra,
Yeah, because I think if I could wear shoes like super shoes, but I had to, I'm only consuming 40 grams of carbs an hour, I think that slows me down than a Speed Ultra and like the classic 2 goos an hour.
we're clipping this for
Oh, but it could be the
conversational
best kiss of your life. Mm.
pace. Adam Copeland
I don't know.
again says should it included bicarb.
I think I'm more of a mid carb.
I'm not sold on bicarb for ultras.
I'm mid carb too.
I think I'm more mid carb.
If I'm spending the money on bicarb, I'm spending it on ketones.
Leah says I think you can't marry high carb without dating it.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually a great. You didn't finish reading the whole thing.
Yeah,
Curious-
this is
curious
important.
how many-
I
Curious
don't
how
read
many
everything,
people-
Brett. Come on.
You got to read everything.
This is
that's on top.
important.
Curious how many people will try it at Western States without testing
Weezer.
it in the heat / 100-mile context. And testing it is high carb fueling. Like how many people are going to be like training with 50 grams of carbs an hour and then all of a
Dude,
sudden be like,
that's the
Western
thing.
States, 100 grams of carbs an hour.
I mean, I attempted to run a 100-mile race a few weeks ago, and it was essentially the first really hot run of the year. And I had done a lot of higher carb fueling on some longer training runs. But then when it got to the race day, which happened to be one of the
Very
first
hot.
really hot days of the year, for me at least, like doing that same high carb fueling, which was working well for me, and up to 5 hour or so training runs, like 5 hours into a really hot 100-mile effort, my stomach was already south.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I was like eating too much for how hot it was, I think.
Mm.
And I'm very unscientific personal
Yeah,
experience take
yeah,
there,
and a
but
fan
like,
of
I don't
wine.
know. Like, I think that's maybe what Leah's getting at is like, we could see some
Yeah.
consequences of that because there's a really, really tall high carb wave coming right now.
Yeah, we are in the food doping revolution right now.
The
to
food.
quote the roaches.
just got some strays. Yeah, there you go.
Got some strays. My beard
Better.
hairs don't grow straight.
Did you have a buy sell that you wanted to do before we go on?
No.
Okay. We've got some listener mail. Okay.
I
Yeah.
love listener mail.
Unlike
I've never had
unlike
listener mail
FedEx,
before.
which seriously disappointed us earlier today.
Yeah, we got kind of boned by
We
FedEx.
got boned by FedEx. They are not a sponsor of this.
Nope. Finn
So
is
you're
fed
killing
up.
FedEx.
I am fed up, and I am exiting this relationship.
We had a Mary High Carb in the chat, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay.
See?
All right.
We're in a carb revolution right now.
Dude, kiss cooling.
Yes.
That sounds nice.
All right.
How does cooling change?
Guys, we have mail. We have to
Yeah. Okay,
answer
okay.
this mail. Like literally, Hedwig the pigeon just dropped this off.
Oh,
Hedwig.
like Harry
Um,
Potter fireplace.
We should
envelopes.
have some sort of like we have like a little jingle thing.
Next year we'll have a soundboard.
Will Rod Farvard go to the front again? Will he be marked?
So earlier when we were talking, like, if Jim decides to play it chill in the first 50K, will anyone go around him? Rod.
Yeah.
Rod's that guy. I think Shen's
Is
one
Rod
of those
taking
guys.
everyone with him, or
Would people let him go?
that, or is there someone else who's leading that? Like, is Rod like the first one? Is he like the one in this field who, if Jim is holding it back,
Oh, like he would break the seal.
is Rod the seal breaker?
I think Rod's the seal breaker. But
Okay.
then would Jim just be like, wait a minute, what's going on right
What
now?
a title. Yeah, I'm all about that urination.
With all due respect. And I
Brad
mean
already
with
broke the seal
all
about 20
due
minutes
respect.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Rod's the seal breaker. I don't remember the original question, but Rod's
Well,
the
it was
seal
just, will he
breaker.
go to the front again?
Yeah, I could see Rod doing it.
Okay.
I don't think it will happen though.
Okay.
But if someone's gonna do it,
That's
Rod.
just what you think, man.
Next letter.
Okay, this is. I don't know.
Can
I
you
don't-
start these with Dear Singletrack?
Dear Singletrack. Opportunity for team tactics in the men's race this year. Team tactics. I'm not even sure I know
Who are
how
the
to.
Dan and Hayden.
Yeah, I would say they're sponsored by different people, but I would see
But they're a team.
I would see that being a team, yeah. Who else?
Is there, from a sponsorship lens, is there like a
I mean,
Jim,
Petter and Dan, I guess. I don't know how close they are. I mean, Dan's a
Mhm.
new ad to
Wait,
the
Petter
team.
and that's right, Dan's
Dan's Adidas. He's
Adidas
Terex,
now.
Yeah.
Shen, Rod, John Albon.
Yep. Yeah, the entire
Precision.
They just transcend shoe. They come
Yeah.
together for high carb.
Any other big like training partner, like Chris Myers and
Yeah, Chris and John
Ray?
John
Oh,
Ray.
yeah.
We haven't talked about Chris Myers, who's
No.
also a stone cold killer.
I think Chris Myers is he's my top 10 pick that a lot of people won't pick in the top 10. I think he's gonna top 10.
I just want to acknowledge like the simmering like frustration for some people out there that are like, why didn't you name this person? Again, if we did a name game dropping thing, we would be here for 5 hours, which I would be down for. But like,
We didn't even say John Ray.
yeah, we didn't even say John Ray.
Robert Hassel.
We kind of covered this, but I'm excited about the Asian and LATAM golden ticket winners. Where will they end up? Or LAM golden ticket winners. Where will they end up? I mean, Shen, Jupiter, like they are very high up in our consciousness right now.
G Duo and Dang.
Yep.
I don't want to mispronounce.
Yep.
How do we feel about them? Because I think of them both as pretty solid top 10 contenders. Maybe aggressive racers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe more of like the micro fade to 8th to 10th kind of. That's maybe where I would see those two, both.
Yeah.
But I also may not know enough about some of their results.
Yeah, and like for that exact reason, could we see Dang go off the front and and get kind of forgotten about True Heart Brown's style?
Mm.
That would be exciting. That would be nuts. Would Jim ever let that happen? I think the pace would have to be stupid fast for Jim to be like, no, not even I want to do that.
We have another segment, and it's called Did You Know? And I'm going to read a stat from our good friend who's here in studio contributing, Liam Aid Station Fireball, and I want your reactions and sort of contributions. I might even pose these as a question. The first one is around top 10 durability, and the stat is over the past 10 years, so 2013-ish to present, There are only 18 people who have had 3 or more top 10 finishes. Brett, can you name one of them?
In the past
10 years, 3 or more top 10 finishes. Or Mike.
I mean, Tyler Green.
Yep.
In the past 10 years.
In the past 10 years.
Jim Walmsley.
Yep.
Mark Hammond.
Kyle Pitari.
Mark Hammond.
Jeff Browning.
Yep.
Ian Sharman.
Yep.
We're
I'm,
really
with
good
you.
at this.
Pitari.
I'm
Yeah,
in
I
the
said
presence
Kyle.
of absolute ultra
I
running
said
nerds.
Kyle Pitari.
Yeah, Pitari's on there, right?
Yep.
many
Emily
other-
Hoggood.
How about, let's get into some women here.
Emily Hoggood.
Yeah, Emily Hoggood, definitely.
Katie Asman.
Yep.
Casey Lichtig.
Yep.
Was it 3 or more top 10s?
Yes, 3 or more.
Amy Sproston?
Should be at the very early part of that.
No.
You lose. You're out. You
I'm
gotta
out.
A couple interesting ones I'll throw out there. Eliza LaPierre,
Oh, that's a good one.
Camellia Mayfield,
Oh, I forgot about Cam. Sorry, Cam.
Caitlin Gerben,
Oh, easy. Yeah.
easy.
They had some good battles.
Megan Arbogast. Yep.
Yeah.
And Jesse Haynes.
Jesse Haynes.
Jesse Haynes.
That's a good one.
Obviously Rob Carr too. Paul Giblin. Very interesting.
Mm.
Okay.
That was a good did you know?
That was a good did you know. Another did you know over the actually you might you cannot answer this question.
I'll just interrupt you and say yes.
Actually, you both might have been
Hal Kerner.
You both might have been
Is the answer Hal Kerner?
I might ask you for the top 3 cities in order. So
Who is Hal Kerner?
we're talking about the most consistent states / cities that have registered top 10 performances in the last 10 years. So what is the leading city / region? Just name the city.
I did hear the answer to this. So I
talked
can,
about this.
Okay, we
Oh,
did.
you did too.
So you guys know.
Yeah.
Bend, Oregon.
Bend, Oregon.
So
that
we're
one was a surprise.
Amy Sproston, Camellia Mayfield, Denise Barasa, Ian Sharman, Jeff Browning, Max King, Stephanie Howe. What are 2 and 3?
Flagstaff. I don't know.
Flagstaff is 2.
3. What is it over the? What's the
In-
time frame? How many years?
10 years.
10 years or less 10 years?
Washington, D.C. I'm kidding.
You said that so confidently. I was like, what?
Dude, could it be like the Mill Valley Bay Area type
There's
area?
gotta be some.
It can be an area. It doesn't have to be like the exact city. It can be like an area.
Is it the Bay
I
Area?
feel like SoCal too has to have a bunch.
I'm going Bay
Bay
Area.
Area too.
Greater Denver area,
Co-
so
it's
Boulder.
Colorado. Yeah.
Oh,
Boulder.
I forgot about Boulder.
Okay.
Whoops. Sorry to all the Boulder people
Okay,
out there.
I think this is a really interesting stat. And before I say the stat, we're going to define, and again, this is subjective, but we're going to define elite runners as the top 25 runners in a given year through Robinson Flat. So this is the top 25 in the field at Robinson Flat in a given Western year.
Okay.
Based on the data from the past 10 races, we can expect anywhere between 2 to 5 elite male runners to ultimately drop from the race, while we can expect 2 to 4 elite female runners to ultimately drop from the race. And that's defining an elite runner as someone who's in the top 25. That stat shocks me because I feel like it would have been higher.
I thought the
Only
number
2
would
to
have been bigger.
5 to
2
DNF.
to 5 and 2 to 4 to DNF to not complete the race.
Yeah.
So I guess that it gets interesting when you think about like how far do they fall back if they decide to complete it. Like that to me is interesting, but I think that's a real to just exit the race.
Yeah, I thought it would have been higher.
I would have thought it would have been higher too.
But I guess we've had a lot of people do the lie in a cot at what's the aid station after Green Gate, Auburn Lake Trails. Yeah, I've got a good cot story. It was in 2022 when I ran states. I wasn't ready for the cot, but I was definitely kind of blown up. And
Mike is the second to break the seal.
that means Finn's the most dehydrated. I got into the Auburn Lake Trail aid station.
Pain is weakness leaving the body.
I sat down and I look over at the cots and I'm like, oh man, all the cots are full, rough year. And under one of the covers, a head pops up. It's Rod Farvard. He's like, hey Brett. And I'm like, oh no, I'm so sorry, such a bummer. And then he's like, yeah, it happens. And he's like, at least I'm doing better than Jared. And then the next blanket goes over, and he just looks over and he's just like, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. So I was like, I can't be in this aid station any longer. But
so this is a story about being amongst royalty, ultra running
yeah,
royalty.
oh yeah, and just like that, I moved up 2 places.
I really want Mike to be here for this one, but
Okay,
we're in a groove.
I can give you a did you know.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, because I want Mike to hear this one.
Well, this one was just, I wrote down just some notes about Ryan Montgomery and how he's had such a diverse ultra running career. But like, did you know that in 2019 he was 2nd place at the Tahoe 200? Like, how many people are even? There's no one else in this in our notes that's run a 200-mile race. I did that too. Mike just kicked a stick.
There's this. Anyways,
also, Ryan Montgomery is also a Badwater finisher. Like, Ryan has run like all the races.
the only reason why I know about Tahoe is because I've been over to Ryan's house for dinner before, and when you walk into his house, he has this like workout room, and it's got like all of his like awards and golden tickets and posters. And I was like, he ran a 200 like early in his career.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Ryan has been running ultras since he was 21 years old. Like, he's kind of got that old school ultra runner mindset.
All right, Mike, we waited for you to
I heard
list
you
out this stat. That's how devoted I am. So the last stat, and again, Liam, thank you so much. These are awesome. I think the DNF one among the elites is really, that was kind of eye-opening to me. But this is the fastest Western States if Jim Walmsley were to run each section this year at the same pace he's run them the fastest in each of his previous attempts. So start to Robinson Flat is 4:18, 2016. Robinson Flat to Forest Hill, 4:15, 2019. Forest Hill to the river, 2:05, 2019. And river to track, 3:23, 2019. So 2019 was amazing. That 2016 start to Robinson, mind-blowing. The rest, 2019, it would total 14:01. So this is mind-blowing in the sense that his PR on this course is 14:09. So if he's taking the best of all, 5 years at this race, it's only 8 minutes faster than his current best on the course.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be fast. I thought it was going to be like 13:30 because he had like splits from 2017 and 2016 that you then add together. But it was really more like he almost rewrote his entire record book in 2019 in one go.
Yeah.
And if you look at like the Geeks Only section of like the splits and stuff on the Western States website, like you don't really see that for other people who've run the race multiple times. You have like, so-and-so ran a really good section on this year and a really good section on this year, whereas Jim ran like a really good start to finish in 2019.
We have two more things to discuss in this episode. One is Mike's podium predictions, which we're going to cover last. The last segment we're going to do, though, is what to watch for / bold predictions, where each of us state something that is borderline controversial or debatable, but we hold to it. I'll go first. I have two. My first one is I believe 5 people in the men's field will run under 15 hours on Saturday, I should say. That's my first bold prediction.
I've got a great counter bold prediction for that.
I want to hear it in a second. I believe more than 6 men will be wearing the Koros armband heart rate strap in the top 10. That's my other one.
We'll see a lot of like Koros armband tan lines the next day
Totally.
at the award ceremony.
So those are my two. What's your counter to the first one?
I don't think 5th place runs faster than 15:30 this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it take a course record to win?
No. I think we only see one person under 15 hours this year.
Tom, remember in our previous interview, Tom Evans was very explicit. He said, I think it was like 14:38 is winning this race.
Yeah.
And then ended up being whatever, like 14:42. So he was like plus or minus 4 minutes off.
Yeah.
What is the winning time this year, do you think? What's winning this race? Because I feel like that this projected time is going to open the door for a lot of people, I think, like Tyler Green, to seriously contend.
I think it's in that 14:45 to 15 hour or 14:45 to 14:50 range. Like, I don't think it's mind-blowingly fast. But at the same time, that's also very fast.
I don't think Walmsley's running slower than 14:40.
You think he'll stay hot on the gas?
I don't know.
Because we just heard him talk about like he's like setting aside time.
Yeah.
But you still think,
But you're
regardless,
still running
he's
by
still
intuition.
gonna
Yeah.
Time aside, he could still run fast.
Yeah.
tactical for him is still like 14:23 or something like that.
Yeah. I think it could be. And I also think with how fast this field is.
I guess I just want to believe that every subsequent Western is this like, especially in this era, it's this like even more professionalized moment where it's like, wow, like the status quo is now like a 14:50.
Here's a probably not so hot take, but I think maybe it happened last year. No, it didn't happen last year because of Anthony. Anthony screwed up. Every single person in the top 10 will be sponsored
Yeah,
this year.
definitely. Anthony was he was on his way.
He was on his way, but he hadn't signed the contract yet.
He was negotiating.
Yeah, but so he was unsponsored at Western States. I think every single person in the top 10 is sponsored.
Is Nick Curry sponsored?
No.
Is he Air Viper Racing Team? Is he Air Viper Racing Team?
Does that count? Not in a like. Are we talking shoe sponsors?
I mean, like I'm like like making like a decent amount of making money from running.
I mean, is he a partner in Air Viper?
Yeah.
He's still definitely making money in running, probably.
Yeah. How many people does Nick Curry pass after Robinson Flat this year?
What are you setting the over-under at?
I was thinking like 15. What would you say? What were you going to say?
Yeah, you're right. I was going to say like 50, but he won't be that far back. For Robinson Flat.
What if he purposely just goes like to Robinson Flat at the cutoff just to see like actually, that's a great question. If you get to Robinson Flat at the cutoff and then start racing from there, how fast can you run? Can you still break 24 hours?
What's the cutoff for Robinson? Probably like
8 hours? No, 10 hours?
Well, what's the cutoff at Robinson?
We're talking with Liam right now, by the way, if you hear Liam in the background.
I thought it was like 10 hours.
It's got to be at least 10.
So-
yeah.
Okay, so then you could run 14 hours
Yeah,
from Robinson
for
to
sure.
the finish.
For sure. Walmsley can do that from start to finish practically. So
Yeah. Could you go 10 hours? Yeah, you could almost do 10 hours. So, like, you could theoretically run under 20 hours. So, what we're getting at is, like, if you're having a rough day in the high country, you can still turn things around.
for sure.
We had this label of dice rollers earlier in the pod. I want pleasant surprise as another label. Like who is like the pleasant
that's nice.
surprise into the top 10 here?
I like that.
Like Nick Curry, like pleasant surprise. Like
Mine was Chris Myers. Chris Myers is my pleasant surprise.
Okay.
That'd be really pleasant.
Yeah.
Pleasant.
Hey, what's the deal with Simone Gosselin? Like, what's this guy's
Yeah,
deal?
Jim's really taken him under his wing and just, I mean, he metaphorically and not just thrown him into the furnace for the last few months.
Right.
Like, you
Like,
come
is
out,
this somebody that we should be talking more about.
tan,
I
or
actually
you
don't,
come
I'm
out burnt.
honestly asking because I don't know.
I think that training with Jim is the ultra running equivalent of going into the SEALs. Like it is going to be hard.
Jared got really fit. Like
Jared got
Frericks
fit.
got really
There's
fit.
the Eric Sensman effect where you're just elevated by Frericks and Hazen
Yeah.
and Walmsley. Like
So he could potentially just like, that's the team right there, Jim and Simone.
Yeah. Maybe.
Did I say
I don't
that
know.
right?
do you
How
have a
did Jim
bold, do you
say
have, do you have a take that you want to stand by?
What do you
Do you
got?
have any?
Oh,
We just learned that 330 won the 1500 in the
God.
Olympic trials.
Okay.
what? Who?
No.
No.
No who's.
I want to know. Okay, fine. We'll pull it
I
up.
wanna ride.
We'll pull up Peacock.
Dude, yeah,
and
it's
watch
training.
after
It's
this.
training with Jim, the ultra running equivalent of walking out onto the track with Snoop Dogg, and then winning the 100-meter. Noah Lyles, Gucci'd up.
In this scenario, who's Noah Lyles and who's Snoop Dogg?
Well, Jim is Snoop Dogg.
Oh, I thought Jim was Noah.
We're on totally different wavelengths right now.
Because I was like, Jim's faster. Jim's definitely Noah Lyles is
but
definitely faster
we're
than
talking
Snoop
about
Dogg.
Simone training with Jim.
Yeah.
So like Noah walking out with Snoop. Anyways, I don't have a like really spicy take. I don't think, but I do wonder. Actually, yeah, fuck it, I do.
You got demonetized, man.
No, I think you're allowed at least one.
Okay, one.
Like PG-13
Better not do
movies.
a second.
I think here it is, dude. I think Esther Schillag is about to put the Esther in Western states.
You were supposed to say that tomorrow.
No, I'm saying it now. I didn't know.
Well,
it was
Mike
on
doesn't
tomorrow.
get to be on tomorrow, so
I'm gonna say it now.
Do a sick
yeah.
kid.
I think we have 2 women in the top 10 overall,
Do they just drop the W after
and I think
this?
it's Katie.
Is it
and
just
Esther.
Eastern States?
Esther, or they add a
One
Z. I
out.
think they add a
The
Z.
Eastern States one.
Western States. I like that.
So for Robinson Flat, 9 hours and 10 minutes is the cutoff.
9 hours.
9:10 is the cutoff for Robinson Flat.
There's only 4 people ever that have finished between 9 hours and 9 hours and 10 minutes that have ultimately finished the race, and they've all run 29:5.
Oh, that's a good stat. So, wow.
You want to recite that?
So there's only been 4 people to go through Robinson Flat within 10 minutes of the cutoff and finish the race. That's a sad stat. I was really hoping for more of like a fairy tale ending where it's like 75% of the people. So it's like if you're within the 10 minutes of the Robinson Flat cutoff, you're kind of effed. That's what Aid Station Fireball's saying. There's a chance. It's slim. We're talking like Dumb and Dumber slim. But you're saying there's a chance.
Robinson Flat, if you get there between 8 and 8:15-ish, best you can expect is like 29, 26, 30-ish.
Okay. So if you're within an hour of the cutoff, you could still, people have run 26 and a half hours.
So, and I'll preface this by saying Mike is obviously at liberty to adjust these as the week progresses. But before we go, we would be remiss not to ask Mike what his podium picks are for the men's field. We are going to do a predictions episode on Wednesday that's like full blown, like a bunch of different stuff. Brett and I will go top 10 and whatnot. But Mike, can we get the single cam on Mike to finish this thing?
Get it
We
right.
need a
Get it
new
right.
lens, but we could just like crop it. Yeah, not me. I know people have asked Mike and I when we're running together if we're brothers. I get that.
I don't get that.
You were with me. You were there.
I'm just
We
kidding.
were in Palm Springs. We had
Mike-
matching bucket hats.
Yeah,
Mike
we look
got
good.
Mike called Ben Affleck's doppelganger today, which I think is a high compliment.
I prefer Hal Kerner.
And
but
Hal Kerner.
Much higher compliment.
That is a higher compliment. Mike, literally, look at all the pressure around you. Like, you have to state your podium picks on air,
Starting from third.
starting
Podium.
from third.
Just podium.
Do you want to
podium.
go?
Well,
further?
you can go as deep as you want. Actually, no. I think
Start from
the people wanna know.
367th place.
Dude. I don't know, man. I mean, has Walmsley ever been beaten in Ultra? He's undefeated in Ultras, right?
Well,
Or no,
No,
not
no.
undefeated in Ultras. But he's on an undefeated streak in Ultras, right?
He hasn't lost an ultra marathon in a hot minute.
Yeah.
UTMB
UTMB
2022.
Okay. So at least a couple of years.
Yeah.
Ultra marathon winning streak.
hmm
But he just got second in a trail race
in a trail race.
on Friday.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's the second
is
place.
fallible.
He's got a second place streak of 1 right now.
Is it a streak if it's of one? I'm on a one. Yeah, you're right. I'm on a 1 day run streak right now.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
You
Big
got a lot
zero.
going on. Yeah. So I don't know.
Okay.
He's
So-
on a second place streak of 1.
So where are we starting this?
Go
Are we going
on.
10? We going 3? We going 5? What are we doing?
Dude, I don't know. Honestly, I don't have anything prepared for this, so should I'll start.
Go
at
with
the,
your heart. Go
should I
with
start
the
at the
heart.
top,
Yeah,
and then we'll just see how far. Yeah.
and just go from the heart.
I mean, I really think Walmsley's gonna win,
Okay.
and I'm rooting for Walmsley to win. But there's also a lot of other people that I'd be really psyched to see win. But I do think I do think it's pretty obviously Walmsley's race to lose. So, yeah, Jim Walmsley's taking my number 1 spot.
Okay.
No comments. Okay, good.
Except for the cat shirt.
Cat shirt, Instagram ad.
Yeah.
Yep,
They
so
work.
You
All
just
the
have to
marketers out there, they
like
work.
say I want a cat shirt like in your
Yeah.
life, and then the Instagram ad will pop up.
Yeah. Second place.
Yeah,
Do you guys have a podium in your mind already?
I do.
You
yeah.
do? Do you,
so-
Finn?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't. So
Finn's lying.
second place. Finn's a lion. So.
Yeah.
Once upon a time I
potatoes.
did.
Second place, dude. I think we're going to see some friggin' mix-ups in this race, dude. I don't think it's going to be so cut and dry.
Are we getting pleasant surprises in the top 3?
There's so many names that could be on this podium.
Dude, Tyler's getting second. Tyler's getting second to Jim again.
Okay.
I think for the second time, right?
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
He's
He did it in
second to Jim Walmsley.
2021, right?
I think so.
I think, and it was a big gap. Gap's
It was
got
a
to
big
be
gap.
smaller. It was like 90
Gap's gonna be
minutes.
smaller this year.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure. Dude, Tyler can run with the best of them, and he knows this course better than anybody else, as good or better than anybody else on the starting line.
He's training partners with you now. So like,
I'm his
Yeah, can
I'm
the
now
mainstream ultra media talk about that?
I'm a confidence booster, meaning that when people run with me, their confidence gets boosted.
Yeah.
Because they realize, oh, there's at least one guy I'm way fitter than. So I did that for Tyler, I like to think, once or
Yeah.
twice in the last few weeks. So Jim, Tyler, third place. No, not. I'm looking at a list of names right now.
Yeah.
Dan. If I
Mm.
said Dan, that's not spicy. That's like a.
Yeah, that's a safe.
That's
You think
a
that's a safe?
That's a relatively
pretty
safe
pick. Yeah.
pick. I feel like.
Dude, I choose mild salsa all the time at Chipotle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's my podium. Is Jim, Tyler, Dan,
Okay.
Dan Jones.
I think that's a good podium. I
Um,
think there's a lot of people that would disagree with that.
I mean, it's very easy to disagree with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are infinite universes that have different podiums that are all very realistic. And then it's some other. So top. Let me talk about top 5.
Okay.
Okay.
Top 5, dude. Is Dakota gonna have his day, or is Dakota not gonna have his day? I'm gonna skip to 5th. I'm gonna say Caleb Olson.
Okay.
I like that.
I think that's a pretty
I think it's-
reasonable.
I think a lot of people will consider that spicy.
Okay. Let's say Cole's having his day in 4th.
I love that.
Yeah.
So
I'll stop
to,
there.
to recap, we've got Walmsley,
Tyler,
we've got Tyler, we've got
Dan Jones,
Cole,
Watson.
we've got Caleb.
Caleb Olson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, a deep amount of appreciation for coming on the show tonight. And Mike is, I guess, leaving this couch, but he's going to be here the whole week. It's going to be awesome. We're going to
He will be floating amongst us.
He's going to be feeding us comments and content all week and
Absorbing
putting out amazing
knowledge.
photos. So we're going to miss you in a way, but we're not going to miss you in a way because you're going to be right here. This was amazing. I'm stoked for the rest of the week. This was our Western States 2024 Men's Field preview. I'll say one last thing. Thank you so much to Brooks for making this possible. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to support our studio, our show, etc., head to the comments, support our sponsors, use the discount codes, etc. Leave us a rating, leave us a review on Apple, Spotify. Share this episode, share our content on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe. That's all. Brett, anything from you?
Try out Delta G Tactical Ketones if you want some ketone scissor for your waffles.
Scissor.
Try some Tactical because it's thick like syrup. I did not realize that. That was a curveball and a half.
I genuinely, like, from a taste standpoint, and again, this Delta G, I love their blueberry flavored stuff. This stuff is sweet. They both have great effects. The tactical
It still
stuff
tastes
to put
like
down.
ketones.
The tactical stuff is tough to put down. It works, but it's tough because it's the real stuff. This stuff is more flavored. It's easier to put down. So
I don't want the last word, but I have 3 words, and then back to you for the
you get
last word.
You get the
No,
last.
no.
Yes,
I don't want the last word.
Okay.
I have 3 words or phrases, only because there's literally 2 names on my list that we didn't mention. So I'm just going to say them and not say anything else. Blake Slatengren, Robert Hagenall. And then my last word is Cat Nation forever.
Cat Nation forever.
Cat
Yeah,
Nation.
I can get behind
Cat
that.
Nation.
I can get behind that.
Okay. That's it.